Here we are back for some more embodiment and resourcing. Let's start with the check-in. Hands over our tummies, close eyes, letting yourself drop down into the body if you weren't already there. Your awareness, that is. Also feeling the chair beneath you. Maybe your feet on the floor, feeling that contact. Letting that help you connect with the earth that's supporting us all. How are you today in your body? And letting your hands move up to your heart area, tuning into that more subtle aspect of your being, your emotional self, your heart, however you connect with that part of you that senses and feels your inner moods, that flowing emotions that come and go, and also how you attune to other people's emotional states. How is it in that area of your being today? And then bringing your hands up to your head, checking in with your head space, your mental state, quality of your thoughts, your memories, your beliefs, however you relate to this mental aspect of your being. And then letting your hands and your arms come down, just taking a moment to see if you can sense the wholeness, how all the different aspects of your being are all here together in harmony. A lot of times our awareness is more oriented in one part of our experience than another. And so it's helpful to just kind of check in the different aspects of our being, see which area feels the most familiar to you, or which maybe is a little bit quieter, or not as connected. Sometimes even these different parts of us relate to each other. Our thinking self relates to our physical self, and our hearts relate to our physical and our mental self, etc. And then just letting your eyes gently open, seeing the space around you. And if you can, move into a standing posture, standing position where you can do a little bit more movement. It's always okay to do this sitting. Allow the movements to be a little bit more close to the middle of you. But if you can stand, then there's more options. I like to stand with my feet about shoulder width apart because that gives me more stability. And then with my knees a little bit bent. So our movement motif is about playing with opposites. And we can just start with one we've done before. It's called expand and contract. And think of it more, instead of contract as something negative, just think of it more as like folding in or going inward or becoming small and contained, and versus expanding and spreading and becoming bigger. So in your own way, there's no particular way to do this. It's just tune into what does it feel like your body wants to do when you ask it to expand out into space. And then shift to the opposite, go in toward your center. Is it folding in, curling in, relaxing inwards, softening. And when you feel ready, shift back to that outward movement, going away from the center, out to the periphery, out into the space. And just continue alternating one way and the other. You might go different speeds. And when you go in and into toward the center, you don't have to go all the way in. You could go part of the way in, and vice versa. When you come out, you can just come out part of the way and go back in. Noticing how there can be a lot of different ways to explore expanding and contracting. Notice how it feels emotionally. Maybe there are no emotional feelings to this, but maybe it can evoke some kind of feeling tone or mood for you. Likewise, maybe there's a way that your mind relates to this. Does it bring up any memories? Is there a certain thought that pops up as you're expanding and contracting? How is the breath related to this process? You can choose to breathe in as you expand and breathe out as you get small and contract. There's a kind of naturalness to that I like. And in a sense, it's a way of exploring opposites that aren't actually in conflict. They're in a relationship. So how does expanding energy relate to the opposite, the contracting and folding in energy? And in some sense, they're like two sides of the same coin. And actually, when I'm expanding in the front, the back of me is actually gotten smaller. So the edges start to blur. Sometimes there's like an overlap. I wonder what it would be like if one side of my body is expanding while the other side is condensing. Is that even possible? It's always okay to pause. Just notice how it all feels and then start up again. There's no mistake. There's no way to do it wrong. Let's do it now for a few more moments, finishing up your exploration. Coming into a stillness. Is there an in-between place, an in-between expand and contract? And now let's come back to sitting. There's one more part to our practice. I'm going to bring a piece of poetry to your ears and your heart and your mind. I just invite you to allow the words in. I'll just say a little bit about poetry. Poetry is very personal in terms of what speaks to you or moves you. Some poetry, just not interested in, doesn't do a thing for me. Other poetry, it moves the world for me. It's amazing, opens my heart. So I've picked something that may or may not land well for you, but I appreciate your openness to just let it in and see how it lands for you. The other thing I like about poetry is usually in words. And it allows us to use a part of our mind, more of the right side of our brain. Usually when we're in the word side of us, we're in the rational cognitive side, the left side of our brain. And so poetry can kind of bridge to the more creative side, the side that enjoys beauty and feels the connection to the heart and creativity. So let's just see if that lands that way for you. So finding a comfortable position, and I invite you to have your eyes closed, or if they're open, have them just softly gazing. And I'm going to basically read this poem. It's by a person named Dan Nussbaum. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. And the title is, "In Meditation, You Have Permission." You have permission to do the meditation practice of your choice or not do it. You have permission to do the meditation practice you've been doing all along. You have permission to believe in it or question it or enjoy it or let it take you where it takes you. You have permission to be bored. How else will you ever get to the bottom of boredom? You have permission to try something else. You have permission to think. You have permission to worry. You have permission to wonder if you're doing it right. You have permission to wonder what doing it right means. You have permission to see yourself wondering. Did you start meditation to become a good meditator? You have permission to do it wrong. But if you have permission to do it wrong, how can you do it wrong? You have permission to be bad. You have permission to remember what it was like to be carefree. You have permission to doubt those memories. You have permission to get back to those memories, whether you made them up or not. You have permission to know how to make up memories. You have permission to go over German verbs. You have permission to think about the different grades of motor oil. You have permission to wonder, how is this meditation? You have permission to note body sensations. You have permission to do something else with body sensations. Love them. Be suspicious of them. Forbid them. Give them meaning. Question that meaning. You have permission to have feelings. You have permission to need someone, to worry out of habit, to fear vaguely, to feel disgust, to insist on getting things your way. You have permission to let things go on. You have permission to find yourself in unexpected mind states. You have permission to get lost. You have permission to be curious and interested. You have permission to get transfixed. You have permission to feel calm. You have permission to feel sleepy. You have permission to sleep. How else will you know about waking up if you don't have permission to be asleep? You have permission to know yourself in meditation. You have permission. You have permission. You have permission. And so that concludes our poem. And let's just rest here for a few moments of silence and stillness. Just noticing what you feel. Noticing what goes through your awareness as you just relax here. And then gently opening your eyes, and we'll close there for today.